All right, so on today's episode of the Democrats' latest problems, we turn our attention to probably the biggest and most important issue that they're facing right now, the fact that they're losing the young voters. All right, guys, look, the support that the Democrats have among young voters has and is falling off a cliff. Okay? If you don't know, the Democrats need young voters to come out and vote for them in order for them to win elections. When they don't, they lose. Okay? That's how Barack Obama got voted in 2008. He rode the wave of young voters, college students, young millennials at the time. But now with Joe Biden and the Democrats' inaction and their neoliberalism tactics, they are causing young voters to flee at astronomical speeds. So they're fleeing for a plethora of reasons, but one of the most starkest ones is their failure on student debt. And that's what this Newsweek article outlines as I read it to you. So the title of this article is Joe Biden's Failure to Fulfill Student Loan Promise is Angering the Largest Voting Bloc in the U.S. This is amazing. President Biden's failure to implement a campaign promise to cancel $10,000 of student loan debt per borrower could jeopardize his standing with the nation's largest voting bloc. Biden expressed support for student debt forgiveness on the campaign trail in 2020 and after becoming president-elect, but his administration has yet to act despite being urged to do so by some Democrats. Polling suggests that younger Americans are more in favor of debt cancellation, and Biden won voters aged between 18 and 49 by wide margins in the 2020 election. Millennials aged 25 to 40 and Generation Z, which includes children as well as adults aged 18 to 24, many of whom have student loan debt, are rapidly becoming the largest voting bloc when taken together. The Center for American Progress think tank wrote in a report published last year, while it is already the case in 2020 that millennials and Gen Z make up a larger share of eligible voters than boomers, 38% versus 28%, it is likely that by 2024, these younger cohorts will also outnumber boomers among voters. According to Democratic data firm Catalyst, millennials and Generation Z made up 31% of voters in 2020, while baby boomers and older generations made up 44%. Generation X accounted for roughly 25%. This was a rise from 2016 when millennials and Gen Z made up 33% of the electorate and baby boomers and older generations accounted for 51%. In the race for the White House, Biden won 59% of voters aged between 18 and 29 and 55% of voters aged between 30 and 49. Polls have consistently shown these groups favor debt cancellation. A survey monkey audience poll conducted for Business Insider in February 22 this year showed that just 11% of respondents aged 18 to 29 were opposed to some form of debt cancellation. This was the lowest level of opposition in any age group. That poll also found that 33% of those aged 30 and 44 supported forgiving all federal student loans, the highest level of support in any age group. A survey for Vox and Data for Progress conducted between November 20th and 2020, found that 64% of voters aged under 45 supported Biden canceling up to $50,000 in student debt for borrowers earning up to $125,000 per year. A month later, a Harris poll found that 78% of those aged 18 to 34 supported forgiving a flat amount of student debt. This survey, conducted from December 18 to the 21st, also reported that 73% of this group supported forgiveness for all student loan debt. The Vox and Harris poll came after Biden, then president-elect, said on November 16th that student debt was holding people up and reiterated his support for $10,000 forgiveness. Biden may also face the anger of young voters next year for failing to extend the moratorium on federal student loan repayments. This pause was introduced in 2020, extended by the former President Donald Trump, and then extended by Biden. Isn't this just typical Democrat tactics right here? The largest, most important voting bloc, that would secure your victory, you push them away by actively going against their will. Only the Democrats are capable of doing some shit like this. Only the Democrats. Look, man, this is what we've known. And just to really pound the gavel here, Here's a second article from The Independent. I'm not going to read the whole thing. In fact, it's a really short article. Just the first paragraph will do. Younger Americans turning away from Biden as concerns over 2022 mount, polls suggest. President Joe Biden is facing underwater approval ratings with younger voters as his part heads into the 2022 midterm campaign season, a new poll found this week. In an Economist YouGov poll taken between 12th to 14th of December, 27% of respondents under the age of 30 said that they either strongly or somewhat support the job Mr. Biden is doing in office. That was compared to an even 50% in the same category who strongly or somewhat opposed his performance. The president did better among other age groups in the poll, but notably did not crack 50% among any age-based demographic. This is outstanding. 27% of people under the age of 30, just 27%, support what this fool Joe Biden is doing. That's outstanding. What an abysmal approval rating. Look, man, the writing, it's on the wall. You know, it's going to happen. And, you know, this is the thing about young voters. Young voters won't vote for you unless they have something that they're voting for. You know, see, they're and I've said this before, they're much different from older voters. Older voters look at voting as something like a civic duty. They have to. The stakes are too high. They have to vote, even if they don't really like the candidate. They got to vote for their team, for their squad, for their side. Whether they're Democratic or Republican, they got to go cast that vote. Younger people, on the other hand, are different. If they don't see anything that they can get out of voting, they're not going to vote for you. And the funny thing about younger voters is that, so younger people are overwhelmingly progressive. They are. And, you know, this support for getting rid of student loan debt is one of the biggest exemplifiers of that. But younger people, so since they're overwhelmingly progressive, they're most likely to vote Democratic. If they don't want to vote for the Democratic candidate, that doesn't mean they're going to go vote Republican. All that means is they're just going to stay home and not do shit. And that's the hilarious thing about it. They're literally forcing people to stay home, the Democrats are, by not offering anything to actually bring them in to come vote for them. Younger people are different. They're not going to go vote Republican. They're just going to stay home. They're not going to do anything. And when younger voter turnout is abysmal, the Democrats lose and the Republicans win. And that's what the polls are showing us right now. You know, especially with the Democrats not doing anything on voting rights issues, they're going to get their clocks clean. And what's funny is now they're saying they're trying to aggressively attack this voting rights issue because I guess they kind of sense the deep shit that they're in. But all they're going to do is make it easier for people to vote their asses out of office because young people sure as hell aren't going to go vote for them. This is outstanding. From ages 18 to 29, that statistic I just read, only 11% of that population oppose student loan debt cancellation. So that means the vast majority of those people support it. It's absolutely amazing. And they say they don't want to do it. They're done saying they can't do it because they know they're lying and the people know that they can. So now the Biden administration, Jen Psaki and the rest of them are saying that they're not going to do it. It has to be drafted through Congress. Guys, they're digging their own grave here. Young people are about to punish them. And the funny thing about it is, as I just talked about, young people, they can't be browbeaten. You can't shame them into oblivion. You can't coerce them. The only way to get them to go to the polls for you is to offer them things. Offer them things. Joe Biden on the campaign trail, you know, he talked a good game about student loan debt. I'll cancel this much. I'll cancel at least this much. Something needs to be done. And now he isn't doing anything about it. And now people are feeling betrayed. And they're not going to vote blue no matter who. They're not. Younger people are different. They, you know, if you're not offering anything, they're not going to vote for you. And if the flip side to that is watching the country burns as the Republican comes in and deregulates the economy and cut taxes for the rich and fuels the war machine, some of the same things that Democrats do, then so be it. They have their marshmallows at the ready because you know what? Either way it goes, the country's going to burn anyway. It's just going to burn at a different rate. So I asked the following question. Would you rather burn slow or burn fast? Well, if you burn fast, I would imagine it's a bit less painful. Now, I've never really been burned before, but that's just my hypothesis, okay? Look, man, it's a very bleak future for the Democrats. It's sad, but at the same time, it's kind of hilarious how this is all unfolding before our very eyes. It's as if they don't have access to this information, as if they can't look at their terrible poll numbers. And what does Joe Biden say? What does Kamala Harris say when they are asked questions about their terrible poll numbers and their approval ratings? Oh, it fluctuates. It goes up and down. They really don't seem to understand. Or maybe they do, and they just don't care. Either way it goes, man, suffice to say, young people are fed up with their shit.